So many people in Washington, D.C., Democrats, Republicans, they're applauding President Trump's decision to launch those Tomahawk missiles into Syria. Some lawmakers are calling it, though, impulsive, dangerous, and even unlawful. But is it an act of war? That's how my next guest is characterizing last night's missile launch against a Syrian air base. Democratic Congresswoman Barbara Lee is issuing this demand, quote, she says, if President Trump wants to escalate U.S. involvement in yet another war, he should immediately send a new authorization for use of military force to Congress, and Speaker Ryan must bring it to the House floor for debate and vote without delay. Congresswoman Lee is with me now. Nice to see you, Congresswoman.
Glad to be with you.
You tell me why you believe this was an act of war.
This is an act of war because anytime a country bombs a sovereign nation with no authority, no legal authority, that constitutes an act of war. And here in the United States, first of all, we must insist that members of Congress do their job. And if, in fact, we're going to engage in warfare, we need an authorization and a vote, an up or down vote, because this is our job as members of Congress. And let me say, my heart goes out to the Syrian people. The use of chemical weapons, that's barbaric. We cannot tolerate that. One surgical strike is not going to stop that. And so minimally, we need to get back into Washington, D.C., we need to have a debate, and we need to vote up or down on where we go once we know what the president's plan is.
There is one argument to be made that the president had to act quickly because of the atrocities that were committed there in Idlib. I mean, you look back to 2013 when then President Obama decided to go before Congress, as you're requesting, you know, before hitting Syria, and he faced so much resistance. He couldn't get a vote. I mean, no one then wanted to own what could be the potentially the next Iraq. How would you respond to that? I mean, how do you say no? You are compassionate for these young lives lost.
These are very tough decisions, but that's why we're elected. And that's why the American people should demand that Speaker Ryan call for a debate and an authorization. You know, for many years, many of us have called for an increase in our numbers in terms of refugees. The president is putting a ban on refugees from Syria, so those contradictions are very apparent. One surgical strike is not going to stop these barbaric acts. And so we need to have a full plan. It has to be international in scope. We have to work with the United Nations and other international bodies to really come up with a political solution. We need to address issues as it relates to Russia and its complicity with Assad and how they are conducting this horrific damage and carnage in Syria. And so the only way we can come up with a plan for a political settlement, with the United States involved is through a debate in Congress and a vote. The American people deserve that.
I understand, and you know, when you listen back to one of those final interviews with at the time when he was still in the White House with President Obama, you know, he talked about how it was Syria, which was the main issue that really haunted him. And again, this is a strike that has received praise from your John McCain's and Lindsey Graham's all the way, you know, on the other side of the spectrum to Hillary Clinton. Let me just play some sound from what she said speaking at the Women of the World Summit in New York when she was asked about Syria.
I really believe that we should have and still should take out his airfields and prevent him from being able to use them to bomb innocent people and drop sarin gas on them.
She said that before the world learned what the White House had done. Do you, Congresswoman Lee, do you give President Trump any credit for having the guts to do something that President Obama couldn't quite bring himself to do?
I don't think it's about having guts. I think one surgical strike is not going to stop Assad from using chemical weapons, nor is it going to stop him from wreaking havoc on the Syrian people. What we need to do, and I will say this again, is come together with the international community and the United Nations and come up with a comprehensive strategy, because it's only a political solution that's going to address this. Most military experts will tell you and have said that there's no... Pardon?
We've been waiting for that, for the people to come together.
Well, we have to insist Yes, we have to insist on that, and that's why we're asking Speaker Ryan to at least call us back into Washington, D.C., put forth an authorization to use force, and vote up or down. And that way the public will understand the costs and the consequences of what we are doing.
Congresswoman Barbara Lee, thank you so much for the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Glad to be with you, Brooke.
Thank you. Straight ahead here, the Syrian army is responding to U.S. military strikes there, calling America a quote-unquote partner of ISIS now.